Welcome up! In this episode we talk about liberalism. Coming up. Hello, I'm Understanding Politics, and in this channel I explain political theories and debates to students as well as curious and passionate people, just like you. What is liberalism? It is a political ideology. If you don't know what is an ideology, check the video that appears in the top right corner. Liberalism is a political doctrine that poses protecting and enhancing the freedom of the individual to be the central problem of politics. Laws, judges, and police are needed to secure the individual's life and liberty, but their coercive power may also be turned against him or her. The problem then is to devise a system that gives the government the power necessary to protect the individual liberty, but also to prevent those who govern from abusing that power. We can say that liberalism started in England with the English Civil Wars, when the absolutist King Charles I was defeated by the forces of Parliament and eventually executed. The Glorious Revolution resulted in the abdication and exile of James II and the establishment of a complex form of balanced government in which power was divided between the king, his ministers, and the parliament. In time, this system would become a model for liberal political movements in other countries, such as the United States and France. The political ideas that helped to inspire these revolts were given formal expression in the work of the English philosopher John Locke. Locke held a social contract theory of government, but he maintained that the parties to the contract could not reasonably place themselves under the absolute power of a ruler. Absolute rule, he argued, is at odds with the point and justification of political authority, which is that it is necessary to protect the person and property of individuals and to guarantee their natural rights of freedom of thought, speech, and worship. Significantly, Locke thought that revolution is justified when the sovereign fails to fulfill these obligations. It appears that he began writing his major work of political theories through treatises of government precisely to justify the revolution of 2 years before. Also, revolutions in the United States and France were justified by important political philosophers, Thomas Paine in the former and Montesquieu in the latter. It has to be said that while these basic ideas on liberalism facilitated the creation of liberal democracies as we know them today, classic liberals were not fond with the idea of popular sovereignty. In fact, if you look at their history, you'll see that in liberal democracies, voting rights were extended slowly to the whole population. Initially, only white males with a certain capital had voting rights, then all males, and finally all men and women. The liberal solution to the problem of limiting the powers of a democratic majority employed three significant strategies. The first was the separation of powers, a distribution of power among different state organs, exercising the legislative, the executive, and the judicial power. This arrangement, and the system of checks and balances by which it was accomplished, received its classic embodiment in the Constitution of the United States and its political justification in the Federalist Papers by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. You see that also monarchies can have this institutional setting. In fact, the UK is normally considered a traditional liberal democracy. Liberalism came up also with the idea of periodic election to choose representatives. Representatives are necessary because the society has been conceived by the bourgeoisie, the middle class of workers that got enriched through their work. Liberalism is in fact connected to the development of capitalism and the market economy. The liberal thought applied to the economy is normally referred to as liberism. While this distinction is more frequent in Italian than in English, the concept was introduced in American academia by the world-famous political scientist Giovanni Sartori. Not all liberals are hence in favor of liberist and neo-liberist theories. Still, liberals are usually advocates of the market economy. The third strategy of liberalism is rights. Again, we are mainly focusing on individual rights, as this was the focus of liberalism as a political ideology. Again, rights are as old as the English Revolution. In the 18th and 19th centuries, among the rights, there were the one to the integrity of the person, to free speech, free assembly, and the right to property. Clearly, with the evolving of democracies, liberal movements went beyond to enumerate the rights that states should respect. Declarations affirming such rights were the British Bill of Rights of 1689, the US Declaration of Independence and Constitution, and the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Nowadays, any liberal democracy enlists these rights and more within its constitution. As you see, liberalism is an old political ideology. We owe a lot to liberalism, but it is far from perfect. As stated in the video about ideologies, political philosophies should be dynamic and change in function of the historical moment in consideration of the needs of the population of a country. This is why liberalism cannot be the solution to everything, and parties should use it in conjunction with other functional political ideologies. The lecture is over. As usual, you'll find the sources in the reference section of this video. Thank you for watching. As you may know, liberalism is present in a number of countries, and it is perceived as left or right in consideration of the wideness of the country's political spectrum. For example, in the US it is a center-left ideology, but in most European countries it is center-right.